MKULTRA. It wasn't about LSD, it was about you. The experiments rewired the mind, leaving scars that echo through time.
Most people think MK Ultra was about drugs. They're wrong. It wasn't about LSD. It was about you, not you as a person, you as a type. Because buried in a declassified CIA document is something way more unsettling than they tested LSD. It shows they were trying to answer a different question. Which kinds of people break in which kinds of ways? This file, MK Ultra Subproject 10, looks boring at first. It's full of receipts, budgets, funding approvals, typed memos, thousands of dollars moving quietly across years. Nothing cinematic, nothing dramatic, just a soft hum of bureaucracy doing something it doesn't want to explain too loudly. But then you hit the section that matters.
After years of LSD research, the CIA developed methods for analyzing social situations, and this is the key, relating personality types to the specific effects of LSD.
The document states that after years of LSD research, they developed methods for analyzing social situations, describing personality through social behavior, and this is the key, relating personality types to the specific effects of LSD. Let that land. Not what does LSD do, but what does LSD do to this kind of person? And here's where it gets surgical. The file describes a social personality assessment that divides people into 6 types.
The approval-sensitive personality overvalues acceptance and overreacts to rejection. Under LSD, they tend toward turmoil-type reactions like emotional instability and inner conflict. The socially introverted personality is inward-focused and less socially engaged. Under LSD, they are most likely to show schizophrenic-type reactions, not just a trip, but a break in how reality is processed. People who are expressive, socially active, and outwardly engaged have the elated, highly interactive personality. Under LSD, even the researchers admit they couldn't reliably predict the outcome. And then comes the part that should make you uncomfortable. The document says some people maintain their personality under LSD, others show traits completely opposite to who they were before. This is not casual research. This is an attempt to map personality to reaction to outcome. Who you are times what you're given equals how you break.
Then it links those types to specific reaction patterns under LSD, not guesses, not vibes, patterns. 1. The approval-sensitive personality. People who overvalue acceptance, overreact to rejection. Under LSD, they tend toward turmoil-type reactions, meaning emotional instability, inner conflict, psychological agitation. Their identity is already tied to others. LSD just turns that dependency into chaos. 2. The socially introverted personality. People who are inward focused, less socially engaged. Under LSD, they are most likely to show schizophrenic type reactions. That means distorted perception, disconnection from reality, internal fragmentation, not just a trip, a break in how reality is processed. 3. The elated, highly interactive personality. People who are expressive, socially active, outwardly engaged. Under LSD, even the researchers admit they couldn't reliably predict the outcome. That's interesting, because it shows not all personalities are easily mapped, not all minds are predictable, even inside a system trying to control them. And then comes the part that should make you uncomfortable. The document says some people maintain their personality under LSD, others show traits completely opposite to who they were before. Read that again. Opposite, not altered, not exaggerated, reversed. This is not casual research. This is an attempt to map personality, reaction, outcome, a human equation. Something like who you are, what you're given, equals how you break. And here's the uncomfortable truth. If you can say, this personality spirals into turmoil, this one fractures into psychosis, this one resists prediction, then you're not just observing, You're building a profile system, a way to anticipate reactions, exploit vulnerabilities, understand how identity collapses under pressure. People love the myth version of MK Ultra. They imagine random experiments, chaos mad scientists guessing in the dark. But this document shows something colder: structure, categorization, pattern recognition. This wasn't randomness, it was sorting. Because once you start categorizing minds like this, you stop seeing people as individuals. You start seeing them as predictable, classifiable, testable, and most importantly, usable. Think about the shift. A person is no longer complex, contradictory, unknowable. They become classifiable, measurable, predictable. And once something is predictable, it becomes manageable. And once it's manageable, it becomes controllable. That's the slope, not a cliff, a slope, smooth, quiet, administrative. What makes this document so unsettling isn't just what it says, it's what it assumes. It assumes that personality is not sacred. It assumes that identity can be broken down into patterns. It assumes that those patterns can be tested, observed, and eventually used. And that assumption doesn't stay in the 1950s. That idea doesn't die with MK Ultra. It evolves. Because once a system realizes that human behavior can be mapped, even partially, it doesn't forget that. It refines it. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because you might be thinking, that was then, that was the Cold War, that was paranoia, fear, overreach. But the mindset is timeless. Any institution with enough power, data justification, will eventually ask the same question in a different form, not necessarily with LSD, but with data profiling, behavioral prediction, psychological modeling, different tools, same curiosity. And that's why this document matters. Not because it gives us every answer, it doesn't. There are gaps, redactions, missing pieces. It's incomplete. But what it does give us is something more dangerous than a full confession. It gives us intent, and intent tells you where something is going, even when the results are hidden. Because look at what they were building: a system where personality can be assessed, reactions can be anticipated, outcomes can be influenced. That's not just research, that's a framework. And frameworks don't disappear, they get repurposed. And maybe the most unsettling part is this: even in the document, they admit limits. They say some personalities couldn't be predicted, some outcomes were inconsistent, some reactions didn't fit neatly into their categories. That means something important. It means the system wasn't perfect, but it also means they were trying anyway. Because you don't need perfect control to make something dangerous. You just need enough predictability to start acting on it. Enough to take risks, test boundaries, push further. And history shows when institutions believe they're close enough to understanding something, they don't stop, they accelerate. So when you look at MK Ultra, don't just see it as a scandal. Don't just see it as a mistake. See it as a moment where a powerful institution asked, what if the human mind isn't a mystery, but a system? And then tried to prove it. Because once you believe that, once you reduce identity to patterns, reactions, and variables, you change the relationship between power and people. You stop governing humans. You start modeling them. And that's the quiet horror sitting inside this document. Not the drug, not the experiments, not even the funding, but the idea that underneath it all, someone believed the self can be broken down, the self can be predicted, the self can be manipulated. This document doesn't give us every answer, but it proves something undeniable. They believed it was possible, and they were willing to spend years and thousands of dollars trying to prove it. This wasn't about drugs. It was about turning identity into data. And once identity becomes data, it stops being something you are and starts becoming something that can be read, measured, and rewritten